The Porsche 911 GT3 is the hot version of the road-going 992, a car you can take to the track and then drive home, a car that makes your spine tingle every time you jump in and take it for a drive. The new 992 GT3 is certainly one of the hottest cars to hit the road in 2021, and there's no denying that the styling department got it right, as it looks good in every single colour combination. But what's it like to drive? And more importantly, how does it compare to the outgoing 991.2 GT3? Does it still feel like a GT3? And is it as exciting to drive as the older generations? Today we have 3 models to compare, so why don't we find out?
Welcome back to the AAA MF YouTube channel. Today we are starting the video in a 2008 997 GT3. This is a very special one. It's in signal green and it is the last 997 GT3 that they made. It has ceramic brakes, 415 brake horsepower, and it's worth around 95,000. This one's a 2-owner car with only 22,000 miles on. Now, we've done a video in the past with the 997 GT3 RS, and that was a fantastic car. That was a black car with orange wheels, and this car doesn't feel too dissimilar because it's got the Club Sport package. So it's got these lovely Nomax racing seats from the Carrera GT. It's got a suede steering wheel. Now you really feel fairly agricultural in this because it's got a fairly heavy clutch, and that makes the driving experience quite visceral. It's got that lovely 3.6 litre engine that sounds really, really good. The steering is really direct, and it's an absolutely wonderful car to drive. Absolutely wonderful. It's everything that a GT3 should be. It gives you confidence. It gives you a little bit of zing. It's fun. It looks good. Really nice car. Really nice car. Power at 415 is not up to modern standards, but it's still pretty pokey car, but you can feel the lack of power low down, but it goes all the way up to 8,000 RPM, and that's when you can really feel that there's a lot of power from this engine, but you definitely have to wind it up to get the power out of it. But that lovely, lovely engine really makes this car feel very, very special. Like I said, it actually feels very similar to the GT3 RS that I filmed in a previous video. I love cars with suede steering wheels. I think it makes a big difference. The seats and the steering wheel make a big difference to the interior, and then the most important thing after that for me is steering feel and engine noise, and this just has all of those 4 components that really make it a lovely car. The steering feels really direct, the engine is very responsive and sounds good, and the seats are fabulous. So now we're in the 991.2 GT3 RS. This has a 4-litre engine. The car we just drove had a 3.6 litre engine, and this now jumps up to nearly 500 brake horsepower. You can immediately feel the difference in the torque low down. It picks up much, much quicker. This car doesn't have suede steering wheel, it's got leather. I'd prefer Alcantara, and I think that the owner might change it. The seats are nice. They're not as nice as those Nomax backed seats, from the Club Sport package in the 997, but these are nice seats. They're comfortable, but they're not as nice. The other ones feel a bit more special. Going into the corners gives you more confidence, and that low down torque is the defining factor in this car. Really get that power from low down, which you don't get in the 997 GT3, obviously because it's a 3.6 litre engine, so it's a down on capacity. This one handles really, really well. You have a lot of confidence in this car. A little bit more confidence, I think, than the 997 GT3. I actually do prefer the other seats, and I prefer the fabric on the other seats, the Nomax. They're really, really nice. There's something very special about that 997 GT3 and also the 997 GT3 RS cars. I do like them a lot. Sounds good. We're in sport mode. Just gives you so much confidence, and there's so much power. This doesn't have the ceramics, so it doesn't fill you as much confidence. The GT3 had ceramic brakes. Going round the roundabout, wow, what a great car. Wow, the handling's superb. So welcome to the 992 GT3, the car of the moment from Porsche and probably the supercar world. I've posted this car on my Instagram for the last 6 months, and every time I post a photo, people go crazy. There's loads of beautiful PTS colors out there. There's the new shark blue, and I think for looks alone, I think it looks absolutely incredible. It looks very imposing. The back, I think, is especially aggressive and the biggest change. The front, I like it if they paint the front spoiler the same color as the car. I think the front spoiler in black plastic doesn't look great. The new bonnet is really lovely. It's very, very light, and I think I like the little cooling ducts at the front. It looks really good. I wanted to bring along the 997 GT3 and the 991.2 GT3 just as a comparison to see how different this really was, because when you're driving cars in isolation, it's really not that easy to consider what the old generations were like and how much it's improved or how different it is to drive. So it's very, very clear that this is a faster car, much faster, and the handling is transformational as well. It sticks to the road through that new suspension setup at the front. It's phenomenal. It's also very, very refined. So there's been a lot of comments on YouTube and Instagram that this is harder to drive than the older ones. I've just jumped out the old two cars, and this is a lot more refined. If you're driving of anything up to like 60, 70 miles an hour, it's really quiet, it's really docile. Having less noise makes it a car that you can live with more of the time. I think that cars with a lot of noise are fun, but you don't want to have that noise all the time. Now, on a lot of older cars, you can switch to sports exhaust and it makes a big difference. This one makes no difference at all. You can't really hear a lot between the normal mode and the sport mode. So we're still in a 50 mile an hour zone. The car does not feel very exhilarating doing 50 miles an hour. The other cars felt more special at low speeds, for sure. But the turn-in on this car is unbelievable. You actually feel like you're in a race car, and then when you're ready to put your foot down, you've got so much power. It's unbelievable, like ridiculous power. And you do hear the noise once you start to push the engine and you start to go about 5,500 RPM, you start to hear that engine noise. The brakes are phenomenal, carbon ceramics, stop immediately. I mean, mean, the handling is just, I feel like I'm in a race car. I actually feel like it's a race car for the road. But what does that mean as a road car? What does it actually mean? Why don't we take it back, park up next to the other two cars, and I'm going to give you a conclusion of what I think, because now I've driven all these cars back to back. So we've been very lucky enough to drive all three generations of the GT3 today, thanks to Matt, who's got this lovely green one, and Noel, who's got the lava orange one. So these are my conclusions. I'm going to give it as an analogy compared to Ferrari. So you have the V8 Challenge Stradale, you have the Scuderia, and you have the 458 Speciale. And these three cars feel very much similar to those in terms of their evolution. You've got the 997 GT3, which has a fairly small engine, 3.6 litre, but has loads of torque, loads of feel, feels very, very special to drive, and has all the ingredients that you want from a GT3. Very sharp steering, it looks good, it sounds great, and when you start to rev it up, it's really fast and it's fun to drive. The downside to this car for me is the low down torque and the heavy clutch, which means although it's a really fun car to drive, I don't think you could use it daily. So it's a great car, but maybe not as a daily driver, maybe as something you'd have in the car in the garage for the weekend. The lava orange GT3 991.2 obviously grew to 4 litres, a lot faster than the original car, lots more low down torque. The clutch isn't as heavy, so it means you can use it more often. It's a phenomenal car. I think the shape is phenomenal from the front, and the handling is absolutely sublime. You do not need any more in a car than this. If you're looking for a GT3, this is a phenomenal package. I love the crayon grey with black wheels, but I think the design is great and it's got everything you need. Too fast for the road, still too fast for the road. The 992 GT3. When you look at all three of them, this one looks like a spaceship compared to these other two. They've taken the game on in terms of design. I think it looks so modern, and I think it now looks like as good as any supercar on the road, as good as a McLaren, as good as a Ferrari, as good as a Lamborghini. This car is getting all the attention at the moment. Now, part of that is due to the look, and I think they've made it a bigger car and they've made it a better looking car. But what's it like to drive? Well, they've actually also improved it as a car. They've made it more refined, they've made it faster, they've made the handling better. But what does that mean on the road? Well, actually it means on the road you can't exploit it as much unless you're pushing it that bit further, much harder. So up until 50, 60 miles an hour, it feels fairly refined, fairly docile, dare I say, fairly normal. But when you're pushing it, it has limits that these other two cars can't match. And the owner of this car, who's kindly lent it to me twice now, basically took it on the track already twice and said it is phenomenal, and he used to have the 991.2 GT3 and said that this is a far, far better car. This actually is now the level of an RS car. This feels like a GT3 RS, and when you're pushing it hard, it feels as good as a GT3 RS. So this is my conclusion. It's a better daily car. You could use it all the time, but it's not going to be as exciting to drive as either of these other two 80% of the time. The only time you can exploit this is when you're on a racetrack or when you're in somewhere where there is no speed limit and you can really push the car hard. But I do love the styling and I think it looks phenomenal from the back. But I love Porsche. I've got a GT3 RS 4 litre and I love the 997 shape, and I think that actually feels the most special out of the three cars here. But you can't use it every day. So there's something here for everyone. I think each car has a different purpose, but well done to Porsche producing a fantastic GT3. We hope you've enjoyed this content. Thanks to Darren Gibson for sponsoring the video. Thanks to all the people for lending me their cars, Matt, Ben, And Noel, thanks for watching. We've got more content coming soon, so we'll see you next time.